beneath green skies. Osbjorn opened his eyes. Dust filled his vision, fine gray particles of regolith drifting down like snow. Gravity on Nithelm was lighter than NihtWyrtha's, if only just, but enough that even now, the stones flung skyward by the shuttle's impact were still falling. They moved lazily through the air, slow-motion fragments of destruction. His head swam, but his training cut through the daze. He gauged by the speed of the falling dust that he'd only been unconscious for moments, no more than a minute at most. The rockfall hadn't stopped. He groped for the harness release. With a muted hiss, the strap slipped free and coiled away. He slumped forward, hands sinking into the powder. Beneath it he found bedrock, solid, anchoring. He pushed himself upright, coughing once, visor rattling from the sudden breath. He turned slowly. Nothing. Just swirling haze, gray and orange, moon dust and rust and heat. The wreckage wasn't visible. The crater or blast direction lost in the murk. Modular Eleband, if it had survived, was somewhere beyond the haze. No landmarks. He'd have to wait. A small rock clicked off his helmet, then another. The steady patter was disconcerting, like being inside a drum slowly filling with sand. He checked his gauge, 2 hours of air, enough to survive. For now. Osbjorn exhaled hard, the breath fogging his visor slightly. He closed his eyes briefly, whispered a prayer to the Emperor, and one to the memory of Delta 79. The Skitarii had bought him a second chance. With luck, the distress call had reached Fiskbala. Help would come. But for now he was alone on the ice-cracked skin of a dead moon. The dust began to thin. The air wasn't yet thick enough to carry sound. Shapes loomed faintly around him, half-formed silhouettes, broken outlines waiting for the haze to clear. They looked ghostly in the soundless environment, as if he were trapped in a dream or a memory. Osbjorn steadied himself and waited. Then, a shape glimpsed at the edge of his vision. He turned sharply, visor streaked with fine regolith dust. He wiped it with the back of his gauntlet, but it clung stubbornly to the lenses. Frowning, he reached for his chest plate controls and thumbed the field agitator. A low hum surged through his armor. The static charge bled off. Dust fell away in a soft plume. He looked again. Yes, there. A figure, man-sized, moving at an angle across his position. He took a step. The world pitched slightly. Gravity on Nithelm wasn't that low, but low enough to throw off balance if you weren't careful. He remembered his training, planted his feet with a half-step, half-hop, ungainly, but stable. The shape was still there, moving, not toward him, at an angle. Maybe a rescue party. His heart jumped. Had they seen the shuttle crash? Maybe Bjornwolf had dispatched a scout. Maybe the Archmagos or Grimhelm, or even his hope faltered. What if it was Cole? What would he say? Delta is dead. The words tasted like ash in his throat. The shape stopped. He stopped too. It turned, moving now toward him. He felt relief, raised a hand in greeting, visor catching the reflection of a rising moonbeam through the dust. And then he froze. The shape wasn't right. The hand, long, clawed, tapering unnaturally at the wrist. The other arm ended in a talon. Not a vox helm on its head. No, horns, curved. One snapped off. His blood turned to ice. Osbjorn reached instinctively for his auto-pistol, but the holster was empty. He'd given it to Delta. Back on the shuttle, cursing, he reached behind his back and drew his seeks in a swift, practiced motion. The blade flared to life, a cold, pale blue. Its edge shimmered in the air like ice. He stared at it, then looked up. Damon's. The Nitaetan emerged from the haze, its silicate exoskeleton glowing under the harsh lumen of Osbjorn's helm. It turned toward him. Eyes flickered with warp light, eerie and shifting, like the distorted lenses of old goggles. Its mouth opened in a snarl, revealing needle fangs, and it crouched low, taloned hands sweeping back to strike. Osbjorn gritted his teeth. Delta had died for this. He had no chance, he knew it. But he was Wigathane. Midshipman or not, his father and grandfather had faced nightmares with nothing more than javelins and courage. If he was to die here, he would die with his wounds to the front, like a true son of NihtWyrtha. He snarled back. Fagward, and he charged. A low-gravity hop carried him forward, awkward, ungainly, unexpected. The Nitaetan missed its opening swing, claws raking vacuum. Osbjorn landed on its chest with a bone-jarring crash, stabbing his glowing seeks into the thing's neck. Skyfall steel, forged in the Great Forge, sliced through its silica armor. The blade shattered the chitinous collar, reality bleeding into the unnatural. The daemon howled as its host body boiled. With a roar, it hurled him off, slamming him against the rocks. The Nitatan came again, limping now, shell fractured, leaking sulfur and green ichor. Batted the Seeks from Osbjorn's grip and drove its talon into him, but he twisted away, skating across the regolith. Its blow missed, embedded deep into bedrock. The talon shattered on impact. The daemon screamed, not with voice, but in presence, a psychic wave of rage Osbjorn could feel in his bones. He scrambled to his feet, wrenching a jagged rock from the dirt with one hand. With the other, he yanked a canister of sealant foam from his belt. Spraying a hiss of compound across the breach in his suit, he turned. "Come on, then," it charged. Dust kicked in clouds behind it, claws raking for purchase. Osbjorn waited, heart pounding, then snapped the canister forward, spraying the foam straight into the daemon's face. Its mouth and eyes clogged instantly. Blinded and shrieking, it stumbled. Osbjorn sidestepped and brought the rock down in both hands across its back. It hit the ground, hard, foam, chitin, rock. Something cracked. The daemon screamed again, writhing, its warped body splitting. The shell collapsed. From it rose the Neverborn within, no longer bound by flesh. A warped figure, tall and terrible, feathered growths twisting from its back, neither male nor female, but something in between, something wrong. Its flesh steamed in the thin atmosphere, burning at the edge of real space, but it fed now on the lingering warp taint it had sown into the world. It smiled. Long claws reformed from withering warp flesh, its face, too perfect, too smooth, tilted, and it stepped forward. Osbjorn, clutching a stone, panting, stared up at it. His limbs were trembling. He had fought well, but he saw it now. In the daemon's gaze, it was his end. "For the Emperor and NihtWyrtha!" Osbjorn roared and hurled the rock. The daemon flinched, more out of instinct than fear. It batted the stone aside with a contemptuous flick and lunged forward, jaws open wide. Osbjorn didn't retreat. He stepped in, slamming his fist straight into the creature's mouth. The Neverborn bit down hard. Sparks sprayed from Osbjorn's augmetic hand, shattered daemon teeth clattering off his helmet. The creature froze, confusion flashing in its warped eyes. Clearly, it had never encountered a fist made of plasteel before. Osbjorn gritted his teeth, grabbed the daemon's broken horn with his free hand, and yanked its head downward. His augmetic hand tore free, severed at the wrist. He fell backward, breath ragged, a line of gashes across his chest plate venting hissed oxygen into the thin atmosphere. But the horn came with him. The Nitatan howled. Pain, real pain, twisted its expression as its horn's shattered base began to boil. In a rage, it leapt, claws raised. Osbjorn didn't hesitate. He drove the horn upward, impaling the daemon through its chest. Its face struck his visor, its splintered fangs scraping against the plasteel. It stared into him, twin eyes aglow with immortal malice, and something else. Something. Flickering. A shadow behind the daemon's gaze, not power, not hatred, memory. A moment passed between them, and then the daemon staggered, eyes flicking down to the horn still embedded in its chest. It looked to its clawed hand, already crumbling, dissolving into smoke. The other limb followed. It tried to scream, but no sound came. Its form shivered, the reality binding it collapsing. And in the instant before it vanished, something human surfaced, lips no longer sneering, but still. Quiet. A single word, whispered in a voice not its own. Neslip. And then it was gone. Flesh unraveling, ichor boiling away, its anchor to the world broken. What remained of its body, shell, talon, twisted bone, evaporated into nothing. Osbjorn lay there, chest heaving, visor spattered with black ichor, the daemon's horn still clutched in his bloodied hand. He blinked hard against the dimming light. Around him, the dust was still falling. Osbjorn shifted. He knew he had to reach Modular Alibend. His hand dropped to the gauge on his chest. Half an hour of air left. He hissed through his teeth. The seal was leaking badly, and he had no foam left. No backup tank. No reinforcements. Just his own will and whatever strength was left in his limbs. He pushed himself upright. The wounds weren't slowing him yet, but the gravity still threw him off. It was just enough to feel wrong, like walking in someone else's dream. The sun was setting, crawling slowly behind the horizon in that strange, lazy way moons do. But even as darkness crept in, NihtWyrtha's reflected glow painted the sky green, casting the dust fields in a weird, emerald light. He wasn't worried about nightfall. Not yet. Ahead, through the haze of settling regolith, he could just make out the tall silhouette of Modular Alibend. its lumens blurred but still steady. He took a deep breath, muttered a prayer for Delta under his breath, and began to jog, an awkward, bounding stride like a hop and a limp at once. Then he paused. To his left, a shape. To his rear, another. Shadows moving where they shouldn't be. He didn't stop again, he just moved faster. The dust had begun to settle, but the air was still thin and tasted of scorched metal and silicate ice. Osbjorn's breath rasped in his helmet, his air gauge flashing a sharp amber. Still 30 minutes left. Good not losing much air now. His every movement stirred motes of moon dust that danced sluggishly in the half-gravity, drifting behind him like the trail of a comet. The green light of NihtWyrtha shimmered through the thinning haze, casting everything in hues of tarnished emerald. The Geofon sea so far above was a gleaming mirror in the void, its sunlight refracted through the stormed clouds of the planet, bathing the shattered landscape in unnatural twilight. He moved with effort, half jogging, half skipping in the unfamiliar gravity. The ruins of the old port city around modular Elebend loomed in the distance, a broken line of spires and comm towers silhouetted against the pale light, with the tall structure of the modern colony lit by lumens looking like balls of diffused green in the dust clouds. Each step jarred through his wounded body. His suit hissed with slow leaks. A red marker on his HUD blinked over the damaged side of his chest plate. He clutched the severed horn tight in one fist. His Seeks was lost, his pistol gone, and yet the horn pulsed faintly with heat, as though still alive. Behind him, movement, Nithn, at least two, maybe more. They made no sound, but the dust gave them away. Swirls of pale green cast shadows in the air like smoke signals. One loped in the craters to his left, its silhouette flickering through the last veils of dust, its long arms brushing the rocks like a hound on the scent. Another paced to his rear, slower, cautious, a hunter in no rush. The sun was setting, almost gone. Slowly as it did on Nithelm, crawling toward the horizon. The temperature dropped, and in the growing cold he felt the ache in his limbs return. But worse still was the green glow intensifying with each step, as NihtWyrtha herself became the moon's only light. He stumbled once, caught himself, looked up. Modular Elebend was closer now. He could see the outer hangar, scarred, pocked with battle damage, but its lumen strips still blinked through the dust like fireflies. He didn't look back, didn't slow. The sand swirled again, closer now. One of the NihtWyrtha let out a flickering warble, part snarl, part laugh. Osbjorn didn't answer. He knew it was in his head. Sound could not travel in the air. Osbjorn stood atop the ridge, the green-tinted dusk casting long shadows over the wreckage-strewn plain. His breath came fast, fogging the inside of his visor. The blood in his ears pulsed louder than his vox feed. Below, the landing pad stretched wide and bleak, its scattered debris reflecting the emerald gleam from NihtWyrtha's sea above. The NihtWyrtha moved like wolves encircling a wounded beast, silent, patient. One slunk near the broken Mechanicus transport, its chitinous claws leaving furrows in the dust. Another crouched beside the hangar hatch, horned head tilted, studying him like a puzzle. The rest paced just beyond reach, 3, 5, maybe more. Their movements were not chaotic, they were coordinated, they were waiting. Behind him, gravel shifted. Osbjorn didn't turn. He knew what was there. He tightened his grip on the horn. It was heavier than it looked, the green glow pulsing faintly along the spiral curve. His arm vibrated from the contact, not from motion, but from something deeper. Resonance, the kind he didn't understand and didn't want to. He stared down at the shattered servo skull at his feet, one of the old pattern recon types. Its lens was cracked, its flight cogitator exposed like gray brain tissue. He remembered seeing it patrol the landing pad the day before. Familiar. Routine. Now it was dead. He nodded once, almost respectfully. "So be it," he said, breath misting over his lips. His voice didn't tremble. He stepped forward, the horn low in his grip like a dagger. Osbjorn didn't know why it hadn't vanished like the rest of the daemon, or why it burned a green light in his grip like a coal plucked from the light reflecting sea above his head. But he had no choice but to wield it. The memory of Delta's death, the roar of the shuttle fireball, the thing's shattered face up against his visor, all of it pulsed in his chest like a second heartbeat. He took another step forward. One of the NihtWyrtha let out a keening hiss that must be coming from his own mind. The circle shifted, tightened. He wasn't escaping. He squared his shoulders, holding up the horn as a weapon. The NihtWyrtha were moving fast now. Asbjorn looked from one to another, guessing which would reach him first. He shifted toward the edge of the landing pad. There was a short drop at the corner, which might buy him time against those coming from behind. That left 4 who could cross the pad. The one approaching from the right would reach him first. He braced himself, watching it. It crossed the wreckage of a previous shuttle crash, claws clicking against the grating metal surface to gain traction. It picked up speed. Asbjorn took his 0G tether, standard issue for anchoring in vacuum, and hooked one end to the edge of the landing pad. As the NihtWyrtha leapt at him, he pulled the tether tight. In the low gravity, he slipped aside, ducking out of the creature's path and striking with the horn in his hand. The NihtWyrtha shot past, its talons slicing away a portion of his leg armor, but the daemon horn carved across its back, slicing through the encounter suit and exposing the daemon within to the open air. The creature hurtled over the platform's edge, its corrupted chitin boiling away as it tumbled through the thin atmosphere. Asbjorn turned to face the remaining 3. That had been his last trick. He raised the horn like a blade. The remaining NihtWyrtha slowed as they approached, uncertainty in their twitching movements. They had just seen him kill one of their kind, and they didn't yet understand how. They wouldn't have time to figure it out. The one in the middle splintered first, its silicate body turning to sand, the daemon within torn from reality in an instant. The chitinous shell collapsed inward like a deflating balloon, crumbling into a heap of fine particles. The 2 remaining NihtWyrtha froze. The second followed a heartbeat later, its form collapsing in on itself, the artificial flesh disintegrating into slow-falling silica that drifted through the thin air like ash. The third turned just in time to meet Brother Osric. Sildethnuttle in one hand, chainsword in the other, the iron hand tore the creature in half with a downward stroke. The demon within staggered free of its broken shell, limbs flailing as it tried to cling to the reality it had only just re-entered. Its exposed flesh began to boil in the atmosphere, and then bolt rounds slammed into its chest, detonating with wet bursts of ichor and warp spillage. Brother Nathaniel strode past it, ignoring its shrieks as he advanced. The daemon, failing to hold its form, twisted in on itself and vanished, screaming as it was pulled back into the warp. Nathaniel didn't break stride. He reached Asbjorn and hauled him away from the edge of the landing pad just as 3 more NihtWyrtha began to climb. Bjornwolf stepped forward, taking position beside Osric, a Sildethnuttle held ready in his own hand. The daemons crested the edge of the platform. Twin pulses of disruptor force burst from the relic pistols, blasting 2 of the NihtWyrtha into shattered fragments. The third lashed out in fury, its claw sweeping wide, but Osric's chainsword severed the limb, the spinning mass of bone and talon arcing off into the green-lit sky. The creature stumbled. Bjornwolf raised his Serpenta in his other hand and fired. Plasma rounds slammed into the husk, cracking the silicon shell with violent bursts. Nathaniel followed with 5 precise bolt rounds, each detonating with surgical precision. The shell split open, the demon within exposed, its true form boiling and writhing in agony as the air itself burned it away. With a final echoing shriek, it vanished into nothingness. Osborn, still held upright by Nathaniel, looked on in stunned disbelief. "I thought I was done for," he muttered over the squad vox. "You're kidding, right?" Osric replied, "You're the only one who knows how to fly." Bornwolf grabbed Osborn's arm and pulled him toward the truck. "Come on, they've got friends," he said, nodding to the shadows. More NihtWyrtha were approaching, their claws scraping over the stone. One broke cover and charged. Asbjorn opened his mouth to call out a warning, but before the words came, a sniper round cracked through the air. The demon's armored mask shattered, and 3 more shots dropped it mid-run. He looked back. Cole knelt on the roof of a grav truck, sniper rifle raised and steady. The vehicle, one Asbjorn recognized from outside Modular Eleband, slid to a halt beside them in a cloud of red dust and bone-white ash. The truck was splattered with old blood, its bed stacked with crates forming a makeshift barricade. Asbjorn climbed aboard, still gripping the horn in his hand. Grimhelm pulled him in, then leveled his heavy autogun, opening fire in short bursts at the creatures. Cole, above, called out targets as he took sniper shots. Nathaniel began patching Osbjorn's armor as Bornwolf crouched next to him, holding a support bar as the grav truck rolled forward. He looked at the horn in Osbjorn's hand. "Looks like you've got yourself a daemon blade," he commented. Osbjorn looked down at it. "I don't know why it's still here," he admitted. A mechadendrite dropped down from above and snatched the horn away. Archmagos Damia Voratrix examined the weapon. "Rough guess?" "Resonance field," she said. "Your mind needed a weapon, and this was already from the warp. In effect, you asked, and your dreams gave you one." She handed it back just as the truck jolted, Godric steering it around a ruined ship in the old harbor. Osbjorn took the horn with a nod of thanks, then looked at Brother Nathaniel, his voice uncertain. "Isn't this heretical?" Nathaniel, probably the most orthodox member of the team, shrugged as he affixed a fresh plate over Osbjorn's wound. "Probably. Wolfgar will deal with it once we're off this rock." Osric leaned over while reloading. "Pass it to me later. I'll forge a proper handle for you." Nathaniel looked up sharply. "It should be destroyed." Osric patted the apothecary on the helm. "Don't worry. None of us are likely to survive, but if we do, I'll make one for you too, assuming you can summon enough faith in the Emperor to use it." Osbjorn felt better as the stims began to kick in. He looked around. The green-lit landscape looked eerie and unfamiliar. "Where are we going?" he asked. Bjornwolf ducked down on his other side, picking up a cartridge drum and handing it to Grimhelm. "We're going to end this problem," he said. Osbjorn sat back in the bed of the grav truck. 9 men, 3 Astartes, and an Archmagos, all crammed into the battered remains of a damaged transport. He stared ahead, the daemon horn still gripped loosely in his hand, and wondered, truly, what they were riding into. Behind them, the moaning wind stirred the dust. Ahead, the truck was swallowed by the green-lit moonscape.